Well, welcome everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the AI Surge podcast, where we explore how AI is shaping industries and accelerating innovation. I'm your host, Surj Uppal, and today I'd like to welcome everyone to Adele Casiaro, Supply Chain and Procurement Specialist with Three Links Search. Welcome, Adele. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, thank you very much for having me, and I'm very much looking forward to today and our conversation.
Okay, wonderful. So you work in such a fascinating sector, but the first thing I was doing some research on Three Links and your team it sounds like you work with a couple, like you've got an all-star team there. Like you got quite
Yeah,
a threesome there. How did that come about?
well, and we do. I do work with two fantastic associates. We actually created Three Links. It's a brand new company, and we were able to bring sort of our philosophies together. Equally, each partner has 20 plus years in the industry and specifically focusing within supply chain. So, we are recruitment professionals first and foremost, and we have specialized in supply chain and purchasing for the last 20 plus years. We actually, all three of us worked together in our previous organization. We built, a great friendship, but as well, I think we were the right dynamic. We worked well together. We were successful together. And so when it came time for us we felt we needed something different. We automatically were sort of drawn to each other and said, let's do this together. Let's build something together. We talk the same language. We walk the same walk. So it was very seamless for us to build Three Links. And so far, it's been fantastic.
That's wonderful. And just looking at your website, I get a sense of that as well. It just comes off the page where not only are you guys professionals and good at what you do, but you also are able to have some fun with yourselves, and it comes across lovely on the website.
Absolutely. I mean, we really try to keep, who we are and sort of, our personalities. We want that to come through because we are definitely a people business and we're humans and we really want to be able to maintain that that level of professionalism as well.
So, when it comes to Three Links, does your organization or maybe you personally do you have a philosophy when it comes to um, client management and how you serve your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the core, it's very much about relationships. We are avid relationship builders. We take our relationships very, very seriously with both our, client partners and our candidate partners. And as anybody would know in recruiting, that line gets blurred because candidates become clients and clients become candidates. And I think that we provide, I think we're real. We sort of give you an idea of, what the market is. And through our blogs, which you certainly can access on our website, we don't only talk about recruiting, but we talk about supply chain and purchasing as a whole, but as well as how it affects talent. So we're very much relationship builders, want to be a true extension for clients and augment their internal search initiatives as a partner. And we don't use job boards. That's clearly not why a company would be coming to us, but rather, again, because of our robust network that we have very tirelessly built over many, many, many years. So we have a very deep reach in this market and the who's who. And, one of our big things as well is, being able to access and bring to the forefront the passive candidate market. So those that aren't necessarily actively looking. So yeah, we've been able to really sort of provide everything that we very much believe about people and about talent and being able to provide, that sort of one-stop service, to both partners.
So, you touched on briefly about the community or the area you service. Is it mainly the Greater Toronto area, or do you expand beyond that?
We're national, obviously a bigger concentration, just given that, we are in the GTA. So, a big part of what we do is Ontario based. However, I and my associates have worked nationally to support clients and work with candidates. We've also done work into the US. previously. And we've actually also done some global work as well with some clients that needed our expertise in global markets. So we have experience sort of across all those areas.
Oh, that's, global as well. That's a real Canadian
Yes.
success story. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
So what would you say, because I know in particular you focus on supply chain recruiting. Do you have to take a different approach to that type of recruiting versus recruiting in general or not necessarily?
No, I think the methodology, the foundation and, the people, the relationships and whatnot, that is all, very fundamental and, very foundational in terms of, what recruiting is all about. We latched on to purchasing and supply chain because it continues to be an underserviced market. There aren't a lot of people, quite frankly, that do specialize in this area and do it well. And I also do believe that there continues to be sort of a low supply and a high demand. So, so we have, really, as I said, latched on to that, built a good, strong foundation in that in terms of our candidate and client base. And, yeah, it's been very successful, very successful. I think, a lot of people like our approach. We're direct, we're not yes people in that we don't just tell you what you want to hear. If there's constructive criticism to be had, then that's obviously my job as a recruiter to ensure that you are putting your best foot forward when speaking to a client or interviewing with a client and ensuring that you've done your due diligence as well to be able to leave a footprint wherever you go, wherever you're interviewing.
So I know, on our correspondence prior to this, you had touched on some challenges, with talent and hiring. Do you wanna get into, some of that?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think that today, especially within purchasing and supply chain, I would say that, one needs to be in touch and in tune with technology, with the understanding sort of, data and data analysis and manipulating that data. And, you need to be able to upskill. Because if you're not doing it, then you are going to be left behind. It is just a grim reality of not grim, but it's a reality of where the market is going and what employers are looking for. So, being able to operate in a digital, data heavy environments is critical. So, being able to upskill, being able to have those technology skill sets that, perhaps weren't as necessarily important yesterday, but, the Tableau, the Python, the SQL, and again, working with data, not only just crunching numbers, but being able to tell a story with that data. And I think, if you're doing that, then you are ahead of the curve, most certainly.
Think there's something with the evolution and all the changes in the world, you almost have to become like a
Yes,
lifelong student, don't you?
you do. You do. You have to upskill. Absolutely. And I think again, as it relates to purchasing and supply chain, that's a key area. I would say that, 9 out of 10 positions that we're recruiting for when we're doing intake calls with our clients, those are the skill sets that they're being asked to have. So the data manipulation, the data mining, the various technologies, basic Excel just doesn't cut it anymore. The Tableau, as I said, BI tools, all that thing is all that, beautiful stuff is very important. And you need to have it in order to be able to also, I think, look at competitive pay and competitive landscape for you in your career and being able to make yourself successionable.
Is, the supply chain and procurement, um, side of the business, is that one that tends to lead more to the ability to work remotely, or is that much more important to have kind of, um, in office
Well,
at times?
yeah, I mean, I think that obviously the pandemic made us be much more open to understanding that, hybrid is okay and that business can still run and and embracing that. I would say that, now obviously fast forward several years later, employers are now wanting to go back to much more of an in-office setup. I think, quite frankly, I'm a bit torn about it. I don't think it's necessary, quite frankly. However, I think that, employers, companies, perhaps Canadians, we're a little bit more conservative. We kind of like that touchy-feely, need to see you kind of thing to sort of know that, we're on the same page and it's working. I would say that as an employer, if you are not open to at least hybrid and taking that into consideration, then you're going to be losing out on a lot of the talent because it is a bit of sort of what the standard is now, at least hybrid. That's what I find candidates are still wanting. I think fully remote is out. I don't think that that's realistic anymore. I think that for purchasing and supply chain specifically, again, it depends on your business. I mean, if you're running a manufacturing operation, you kind of need to be there. You need to understand, what the floor is doing, how things are moving, address, deal with problem solving. So yeah, I think that there's much more need to be there. I would say perhaps analytical roles, probably a bit more on the, working towards, we'll say hybrid, even mostly remote. But that said, as I just touched upon, it's not just number crunching. It's being able to have influence, tell the story, get in front of stakeholders, be influential. So, again, there is a need to obviously be in office and have that face time.
It's so interesting you mentioned that because it's such a fine balance, right? Where
It is.
there's nothing that replaces just the organic conversations you have face to face.
Sure.
And then you balance that against, especially in Toronto, Vancouver, the rush hour traffic. And you're like,
I know.
my time could be spent better
Totally.
elsewhere. But maybe that's a ticket, that hybrid approach where you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, we sort of led into hybrid a little bit more, conservatively. I mean, it was usually, it started, I think, one day in office and the rest remote. I've now seen, the other side of that being 4 days in office with one remote. Look, it's about building relationships, and I completely understand where an employer is coming from. And again, you really need to dive in to see how much face time, how much influence your role has and is, and the true need to be face to face and in front of clients, customers, internal stakeholders, suppliers, etc. You're always going to get a better result, obviously, face to face, where you can, kind of read the audience, read the individual, and sort of take it from there.
So, Adele, let's talk about you a little bit. You touched on this a little, where you had worked with your team previously, but how did you get involved in the recruitment industry, and then walk us through that journey?
Yeah, I joined my last organization. Actually, when I first started, I was more of a sort of an administrator early on in my career. And as the business grew and the need arose, I literally was thrown in. You're going to be a recruiter, and this is what you're going to be doing, and get on the phone, start talking to people and start learning. And literally, that's exactly what happened, picked up the phone, had my first conversation. And, I have to say, I thank my candidate network from the bottom of my heart because they were the true teachers in all of this. They helped me understand what it is that each one of them did. And I think that intuitively as a recruiter, you kind of, you're talking to people and you know who's good and who's not, and who can speak well and who can, has that presence and that impact. So that is, from a recruiting perspective, you have it or you don't. I fortunately, as well as my colleagues, we have a good radar. We're able to really sort of capture in, wow, this is a great, candidate. This person is going to go far. But then, obviously the nuances of what they do, again, is coming straight from them. They're teaching us about their roles and how it impacts, the overall organization, and understanding cost savings and what that actually means to the bottom line, metrics. And it's fascinating. I have to tell you, I find it very fascinating, the work of supply chain professionals. And I don't think they get enough props.
I agree. In a few of my corporate roles, as you build bonds with people in the office, and the supply chain people tell me what they do, it is an art and a science. It's quite amazing.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. I mean, they run the organization, especially, when things need to get made and they need to get out to customers and those orders need to be delivered upon. And, and when we see empty shelves, I mean, as a recruiter now, I can appreciate when I go into a store and I see an empty shelf, it's like supply chain issue. So, it puts a different lens on things.
So tell me something that you're most proud of, somewhere on your journey or in your role or impact. What really stands out for you?
Well, I think, again, going back to being able to, I actually today, while it was quite scary at the time being thrown in and saying, you're gonna learn as you go. I mean, I actually feel that that was something that helped, helped me as a recruiter, helped sharpen my skills and helped me be able to network better and identify talent quicker. So, I'm proud of that and being able to, sink or swim, and I swam. And I'm very, very proud of Three Links. I think, I'm not by no means at the end of my career, but I'd be very happy, retiring and, being able to see what Three Links can do for the supply chain industry, the procurement industry across sort of all different industries, because, we do specialize in all industries and being able to be that, that supply chain recruiter, and thought of first and foremost because of my relationships and my approach and in that I care. This isn't just a job. It really isn't just a job for me, and I don't treat anybody or any company like they're just a person or just a job. It's not just a paycheck. I mean, I find that that to me is very valuable and I'm very proud of it. And I'm very proud that we were able to bring all of that to Three Links. And I'm even more proud that, Rosanna, Sam, and I found each other and we maintained that relationship and we're able to build this together.
So tell me about Rosanna and Sam. So what do you love working with them, and how long have you guys known each other?
Well, truth be told, Rosanna is actually my cousin. So, I was fortunate enough to be able to work in a lot of the same places she did. I don't really know how that sort of happened, but it did. Rosanna is smart. She's very intuitive. I mean, she is, very much a relationship person. She keeps everybody on our toes in terms of process and making sure that, everything's flowing properly and, we're organized. Sam, again, like me, I mean, I like his direct style. He's definitely very much an expert when it comes to those, tougher industries like, manufacturing and the nuances within. And yeah, so I guess we really complement each other. And we all at the end of the day have share in the same results. Like we love what we do. We love working with people. We love being able to, put individuals in organizations that, it's almost like a parent, when you then look at a person who's, started as an analyst and is now a VP today, like, that's a parent moment for me. And I love that. I love being able to say, wow, I had a part in that. So we all share that passion.
So, okay, so we've talked about Three Links, we've talked about your journey a little bit and what you guys do well and the markets you support. Let's talk about the industry a little bit, Adele. So, what major shifts are you seeing in your industry right now?
Well, I mean, I think that, as I said, what I'm seeing is obviously the need for, upskilling. And as I said, technology, being able to sharpen those technology tools and understand that, again, we are very much in that type of, market and industry. And each organization is having to really focus on these areas. I also, obviously with the tariffs and all of the impacts that that has, or that has had. Again, logistics, transportation, operations, distribution, those are again key areas that a lot of organizations are putting heavy focuses on. We've done a lot of work in customs logistics. So, again, what are the pressing points in the news? And when it comes to the economy, well, they directly impact supply chain and procurement. And again, those are the shifts that we're seeing as well.
Okay, upskilling seems to be a key theme,
Yeah.
and the tariffs. That's right. It's a bit of a wild card.
Yeah.
With the upskilling, is there a templated approach per candidate, or is it unique to everybody in terms of how they stay up to date? Are there certain skill sets or softwares that they that are just the fundamentals?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, it's not just the analysts that have to be, have strong, tool sets when it comes to, Excel, SQL, Tableau, BI, Pantheon, I believe it is. But it's also people in management level because, those individuals are also being asked to be quite analytical today and be able to and use technology to obviously better whether it be processes or, projects or whatever the case may be. So, as a whole, it's not just the analyst's job anymore. So I'm finding that, even people in, like I said, in managerial or even at the director level, you are being asked to have, analytical skills. It's not good enough to say, well, I have an analyst that can do that. No, you've got to be able to understand it as well and being able to understand what the data is saying and also manipulate it to what you need it to look like and it needs to be. So again, those I would say are probably the forefront of what I'm finding that technology and those, specific technologies are matter very much so.
So when it comes to your particular business, of course your network is huge, but are there any other lead generation tools you use? Because like any other business, you got to keep that pipeline full. And so, what tactics do you rely on?
Well, again, organically, it's again, the relationship is, our biggest tool. Being able to, again, continually cultivate the relationship and always be, front and center when they have a need or when they want to look, whether it be a new role or whatnot. Cold calling, forget it. That's out. Nobody does it. Nobody wants to hear from you. People are taking very much the responsibility and of owning their reins and saying, I'm going to choose who I want to work with. So again, you've got to be automated. Got to use technology to ensure that, you're ranking high and that, your SEO is obviously on point. Lots of keywords and, obviously AI is huge and we are hopefully and looking at, as the organization continues to grow, making an investment on that front as well. Because if you're not doing it, it's just you're not getting the right exposure.
That's a very fair point. And, it's now as we approach 2026, I think it is becoming one of the strategic initiatives for a lot of companies is how to
Absolutely.
adapt AI. And a lot of companies know they should, they just don't know how. And that's okay too, but at least it's on the radar. So when it comes
It's
related to
an
that,
unknown. Yeah, it
yeah,
continues
it
to be an
really is.
unknown. It's foreign and perhaps scary. And a lot of people, again, they have to sort of brush up on technology as a whole. And so, but to your point, I think, you need to educate, the type of world we are in today, what moves it, understand that people are taking that lead and the information has to be at their fingertips. And so whatever that is to get you noticed on top of, and whatever technologies you need to invest in, I mean, you have to do it. It's just you have to if you want to keep afloat.
Well, that's so interesting. And walking into different boardrooms, there's a lot of companies that say, look, here are our pain points. Here's what we're struggling with or bottleneck or whatever it is. Help me figure it out. And that's okay too. It's not needing all the answers, but at least knowing, where the opportunities are, but also the challenges. And that's natural for every business.
Right.
So when we talk about your or a recruiting business, what problems do you think AI or automation can solve for a business like yours?
Well, again, I think that it takes the guessing work out of, how do I expose myself to the market and have better reach and get more targeted sort of, outcomes. But I do also think that that in combination with, again, being personable, having, that human contact and, that is what will set, other recruiters apart from each other. It's a blend of both. You still have to have the face, the voice, the relationship, but you have to adopt the technology in order to be able to kind of get that door open in the first place.
You've mentioned personable a few times. It's so interesting. Like, even on the candidate side, even in driven roles, you still need that somebody who can present well and communicate
Absolutely.
information. It's no matter how tech savvy we get, we still need that, don't we?
Absolutely. And again, that's it kind of for those that are not as, technically advanced, that's where, these strong individuals come in that tell the story that the data is trying to tell and, can sort of, if you will, dumb it down and say, here's what the data is telling us. It's fact based. Here's the recommendations. Here's this, here's the problems. Here's the pros. Here's the cons. But you need somebody to be able to, as I said, tell the story of what the data is telling us, and obviously somebody that can command a room and is personable and can build those relationships and get that buy-in and has, is also very technically strong, you're golden today. And you kind of, if you are that person, an organization believes and values you, then you are what we call, you will have what we call golden handcuffs. They're going to keep you retained and happy, and you're not going anywhere because they're going to make it impossible to be able to compete, anybody else to compete.
It's funny. So we were talking about when in my previous roles, I'd walk down the hallways, and then when I got to learn what the supply chain team did, I was astounded. But what would you say on your side, the recruiting side, what do most people not understand about your business?
I think that, I would say more, and again, I would say more from a talent acquisition and human resources perspective. I think that at times, and I actually did write a blog about this, that we are kind of looked at as competitors to them, where, we're going to come in and essentially, do their job. No, we're not there to take over their positions. We're there to augment, we're there to complement. They're going to, you know, they have a database, they're going to mine it, they're going to, certainly manage the responses, but we're bringing in that whole other element of going out there and actually sourcing the talent for the organization. Sometimes, as I said, there are competitors that they may want to approach in order to be able to bring talent over. Well, they can't do that being in internally and in those organizations. A recruiter can. So we can be that, that reach in the market, targeting those competitors and being able to, direct recruit the talent that ultimately you're looking for. Remember, the person that ultimately 9 out of 10 times that you want is not an active job seeker. They're passive and they're not even looking at all. And that's the individual that's right for your job. But they
Isn't that
do things
interesting?
very well in that as long as a good talent acquisition and HR team is upselling the culture and definitely being able to create that inclusive culture, because that is way more important today to people and to candidates. It's not just about the job, and it's also about where they work, who they work for, the type of leader, an appreciation from the organization. They can do that best because they're living and breathing that environment. But we are an extension, an external extension. So we're not the competitors, but we're your partner.
That's a great way to put it. Where you add value. It's not an either or.
Right.
So when you with three links or even in the recruitment world in general, what do you think is working well? And then what is a frustration in the industry? Like let's say there's a magic wand where you could wave it and you could solve this problem in process or operations or anything like that. Can you pinpoint one thing?
I would say again that, before engaging a recruitment or a agency or a recruiter, I think that an organization has to live out and, sort of exhaust their own resources or recruiting strategy. As I said, oftentimes, not often, but it happens that, we come in and we're immersed in the search and we get, oh, the role's going to an internal candidate. Or, um, we found a candidate on our own. It's frustrating because, quite frankly, obviously nobody wants to waste their time. We want to be able to be of value and we want to demonstrate that value to you. So I think that an organization has to exhaust all of its internal and external sort of exercises first. And then when they're ready to say, well, we've done and we feel we've done what we can do to unearth the right candidate and we haven't been successful, that's when you're going to get the best value from an agency and a recruiter.
So when you look at your KPIs or key performance indicators, and just speaking from John Doe, is it as simple as the number of candidates to clients matched, or is it beyond that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this industry, there are methodologies in terms of, how many candidates submitted to hire or at least to interview. But I think that, what's more important for us is how many candidates are we placing a year and how many candidates are still there making it through guarantee that we're the right person, and didn't need to be replaced or, they were, deemed not appropriate. And I'm very, very happy to say that we to date have not had anybody fall off or that has been needed to be replaced. So we know that who we're putting in our roles, they have been well vetted. They are right on a hard and soft level, and they typically stick and have made it well past guarantee and end up, being there for years and years. So that at the end of the day is what I think matters most for a recruiter.
And for my benefit and some of the listeners, define what make it through guarantee means.
So typically speaking, when a company is engaging a recruiter, we are providing a guarantee to the company to say, the candidate outside of any material changes or anything that would not be the fault of the candidate for whether the position is eliminated or whatnot. If they're deemed not to be right, if there's an issue with whatever that is, I would say, sort of direct cause, then what we provide in the first 90 days is one free replacement at no charge. So, and sometimes, it could be I mean, our standard is 90 days, which typically mimics, a probationary period internally. But we have also, gone as high as 180 days. So, again, cross our fingers. So far, everyone has stuck and has been the right hire the first time. So that's great.
Are there any bottlenecks in your industry? And if so, what are they?
Bottlenecks in the industry. I mean, I would say that, if you're a specialist, then be a specialist. I think that today, again, whether we're hiring a candidate or whether you're hiring a recruitment service, the generalist is out. So quite frankly, that's also my opinion. I think that specialized is the way to go. I think company supplier lists should be specialized. They shouldn't be, let's, sign on an agency to provide us recruitment services in marketing, finance, supply chain, I mean, I don't think there's value in that. I think supplier lists should mimic the specialization, and you should be brought on for that core specialty. So I always find it a bit of a red flag when, a recruiter will say, well, I specialize in finance, marketing, sales, and supply chain. Okay, well, jack of all trades and master of none. So I believe that the bottleneck might be trying to be all things to all people. And I mean, certainly that's not what we are, and nor do we ever want to be. I mean, I have had clients come to me and say, Adele, I'm really, you're fantastic. You've done great work for us on this side. Could you help me find a really great person in marketing? I have done that, but I do that for clients where I have a very strong relationship, where I am a true supplier in supply chain. And they really need some help in other areas. They're one-offs. At the end of the day, we're core supply chain. We live and breathe it. And, I have no problem saying to a company coming to me, well, we have, a marketing director role. Can you help us? And I say, no, I can't, because that's not, my core. And I'm very happy to forward you off to somebody that does specialize in that. So again, the bottleneck is, I think, for where companies are concerned, their supplier lists should be specialized.
It's like going to McDonald's for sushi. It just, it doesn't
Yeah,
work.
exactly, exactly. Well put.
So where would you say, where do you want to be 6 to 12 months from now? Charting the same course, trying something new, or just continuing to grow?
Well, again, I'd like to be able to, as I said, Relinks is still quite new. It's under a year in inception, so we want to do our local market very well and be a supplier of choice. I'd like to be able to again have more presence and reach nationally. Again, geography isn't a constraint, quite frankly. I think that you can, whether I'm in BC or whether I'm in, New Brunswick or Toronto, I can still, my network does span, obviously, candidates in those markets. But I would like to develop a, stronger footprint, obviously, and be a bit more recognized by clients in those markets as well. So, again, definitely developing our footprints and our recognition. Nationally. And I mean, maybe dabbling into the US, because I think we're good at it. We're good recruiters and we're very resourceful. And like I said, geography really isn't a constraint. We know what we're looking for, and we can typically, zero in and do whatever legwork we need to do in order to become, well versed in those areas or markets or, whatever. And so, yeah, just continue to expand, really continue to expand. I don't know that I want to be global, quite frank. I still want to be able to be Canada first and foremost, very much a national treasure. But I don't have a problem perhaps dabbling into, a little bit into the US. Or, also then potentially expanding the business and to be able to really provide 360 recruitment to, perhaps roles that support, warehouse and operations and drivers and, warehouse associates or production individuals. So again, whether you're looking for senior, intermediate, or, obviously those support people on the floor that are critical, being able to be that full service offer.
Adele, if people want more information on Three Links, how would they find you? Could you share your website?
Absolutely. So it's three links, REELINX.ca. And we have some great blogs that I encourage all your listeners to take a look at. And on there is our contact information as well, myself and my two associates. So, by all means, reach out if there's anything that I can add more to this conversation about, or, just to provide, a further introduction to our services and what we offer.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining the AI Surge podcast, where we explore how AI is shaping industries and accelerating innovation. I'm your host, Surj Uppal, and today I'd like to thank Adele Casario, supply chain and procurement recruitment specialist with Three Links Search. Adele, it was an
Thank you
absolute
so much,
pleasure.
Serge. Thank you. My pleasure as well.
Okay, so thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Well done.
Was it okay? Did I ramble?
You were no, you were natural. It was excellent.
Good.
So, and actually, sometimes sound quality with different types of voices is a challenge. Your voice carried very nicely.
Yes. I'm told that I borderline yell, so it must be the Italian in me.
Well, whatever it is, it's working. So,
Okay, great.
okay, so a couple of next steps is I'm actually going to review this podcast in post. I think sound quality is fine. I'll just double check the video quality, but I think that should be fine as well. And after that, I'll share that with you. Actually, what we do is not only do we have the entire podcast, but we have snippets of key topics that I can send with you as well. And then perfect for social media, or if you want to put them on your website, whatever you want to do
Yeah, for sure.
is up to you, but we'll give you the tools to deliver them and share them as you'd like.
Great.
But that may take a day or two to get that kind of locked in. But what I'd like to do is actually, so today is Wednesday. So we start at 10:15 your time. Sorry, 10:15 my time, 1:15 your time. Would you be open to a follow-up call the same time next week to go through kind of some of your pain points and if there's an AI solution involved there?
Yeah, for sure. I will tell you that we are, when we launched, we just did a GoDaddy site. I mean, it was just a quick, something we needed to pull together just for visibility. But we are actually redoing our site. And then, certainly after that, possibly looking at, AI and adopting a lot of that technology and what we can do. So, certainly I'd be happy for you to have a conversation with me about that. I just don't know that right now would be the right time until we get that site launched.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, maybe what we can do is if nothing else, just sort of drill down a little bit on efficiencies, where there's challenges or pain points, and that's all. And then maybe what I can come back
Yeah.
with is, hey, I have some ideas about how to solve this or that, and keep it very high level.
Perfect. Yeah, and I like that you're local. That would be important to us because with all due respect, I don't want to be dealing with somebody in the Philippines, right? So it's nice and I say that respectfully. It's nice to know that you're local and kind of get it.
Well, it's funny, Adele, when you said that about not wanting to work or having desire to work overseas. The if nothing else, the time challenge, right?
I
it's
know.
nice to have a balance in your life and not have to
Absolutely.
take a call at 9 p.m., which I've done before. But hey, you were
Now, how did you find me again? Like I know that you said somebody had referred you, and I'll be frank, I don't know who that is.
yeah. So it's Zach, and Zach is kind of he's a real person, but he does a lot of my back end um, outreach, and so a lot of it's through LinkedIn. And what I have asked him to do is look for leaders in different disciplines. So it could be
Okay.
marketing, HR, sales, business development, technology, whatever it is. But I said, and also we need, let's go across Canada. So let's go Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto, and then the prairies, and then find what we think are undertold stories. And so, for us to talk about, um, Amazon or Mercedes-Benz. Like, that story's been told. We're trying
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
find, yeah, that company that's doing great things that could help benefit from a little bit of exposure.
Yeah,
And
no, that's
so,
perfect. Yeah. Well, he did a good job. He
well,
found,
thank you.
at least on this side, what you were looking for.
Well, it's been fun, and I'll set a meeting invite for later. And then again, let's just talk about, hey, Serge, this is what I'm kind of challenged with. Do you have any ideas? Or it could be ABC, and then I'll come back and say, this is what I think. That simple.
Sure, sure, absolutely.
All right, well, go get the kids. I know you've got some kids
Thank
to pick
you.
up.
Yes. Thank you. It was fun. I appreciate it. You made me comfortable, which is, half the battle.
Okay, I'll send out a meeting for next week. We'll go for there.
Awesome. Take care.
Take care. Bye bye.